Hi, friends. Tammy and I are reaching out to you because we have some really important personal news to tell you, and we want to, of course, wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And at the outset, this is going to sound shocking, but I want you to hang with us as we've been processing this information. But it would appear at this moment that God and my love or our love of baseball has probably spared me my life. We found out last week that I have prostate cancer. And while that news was shocking to us, we've learned a lot of great information, and I think we're going to be in great shape. The story goes back years ago. I mean, a long time ago. You know that I listened to a lot of baseball broadcasts, and Major League Baseball, for whatever reason, has really decided to promote early detection. And so even though most doctors wouldn't propose that I would get any testing done or screening until well into my 50s, I determined at the age of 40 that I would get myself screened. And there was some delays to that were inevitable, but finally in August I got a PSA blood test that gave me a slightly elevated number. And in case you're wondering, the number for my PSA test was 3.9. So that sent me to a urologist, and that urologist confirmed that with a second blood test. And then on Halloween, I had a biopsy of my prostate. All indications, statistically, etc., were that biopsy would be taken just to eliminate cancer because it's such a rare finding in men in the age of 40. But then last week, we discovered, as we talked to the doctor, that in fact I did have prostate cancer. And thank God it's not advanced, as they were able to look at the pathology of the tumors that are on my prostate. We're in a good place. But it's also a clear-cut case. There's no doubt that my prostate simply needs to be removed. Early indications from looking at the pathology are very good that it is extremely unlikely that this cancer has spread to my lymph nodes or the other tissues. But because it is developed, there's really no other choice but to go ahead and just have the surgery to have my prostate removed. So of course there was an initial shock to hearing that, and we had to share the news with some very close friends and family. In fact, perhaps the most profound moment of this entire experience was sitting with a doctor. And I said, "Doctor, what do you make of this in terms of me being a man in my early 40s with prostate cancer?" And he doesn't appear to be a man of any particular faith. But he said, "I can tell you that this is, from my perspective as a doctor, a miracle." And I said, "Why would that be?" And he said, "Because two things had to happen. First of all, you on your own had to sort of defy all the advice of the medical community and get yourself checked. But then secondly, we had to find it, and you were one of those people who had cancer." He said, "If you would have waited 7 or 10 years, as was recommended, you'd have been a goner." And so I kind of celebrate that. You know, the way I'm wired, I thought this is incredible that God allowed me to be spared in this way. Obviously, that's a pretty serious thing here to hear. And so the plan is for most likely at the end of December. We don't have it scheduled yet, but we can have our surgery right here locally. It's a procedure that's done all the time. It's done with the Da Vinci robotic system. I'll have probably a day in the hospital, and then I'll be most likely just dealing with the side effects. The most immediate side effect is that without my prostate, I have to relearn how to go to the bathroom, which is kind of a thrill for me, because rather than going through most of the things that people do that suffer from cancer, that'll be my task. Most men, and again, there are very few men my age who've even had this procedure, usually overcome that struggle within 6 weeks to a couple months. But I've just kind of looked at 2018 and say, hey, this is the year of potty training. And the beautiful thing for me in working for Young Life is that working with teenagers and sharing the gospel, we know that self-deprecation is the key in terms of humbling ourselves to work with kids. And so I don't have a lot of pride on the line, and you may see me around town with a bag, and that's quite fine by me. And so I ask for your patience with me if I'm running to the room and taking care of business, but that's just going to be the way it is. Hopefully within a couple weeks into January, they'll have a lot more information about the nature of the cancer. We'll get a clean bill of health, and we'll be on our way to being totally cured. And so we're very, very grateful. I wanted to share with you maybe two things, because there's been two kind of questions we've heard as we've shared this news. First is around the idea of why, and we want to make sure we're really clear on this. We have to turn that why question around. I tend to look at it more from the perspective of, why is my life so good? Why was I given such an incredible partner and best friend to spend my life with? Why was I given by God 2 children that are healthy and wonderful and a blessing to me? You know, Even within the cancer, I have cancer, but why was I given the instinct by God to go ahead and be screened? Why was I able to get a $40 blood test that saved my life? Why am I 3 miles away from a facility where they can do a biopsy of my prostate? Why am I 5 miles away from a hospital where they can have technology that will remove my prostate and give me a healthy life? The why question for me is more like, why do I deserve all this? What's my purpose in that? There are people in the world who deserve to ask of God, why am I facing these circumstances? But we're not one of them. Now, our news may change and things may be more difficult in the future, but for today, we're celebrating and we're making sure we ask that why question from the right perspective. But then a second thing that people have been asking often is, what can we do? And so we wanted to propose 3 things, if you'd be willing, because I do understand what it's like to have a friend who's sick and wanting to do something. And so we want to ask you to do 3 things as we move from Thanksgiving into Advent into Christmas. And the first is this: would you consider once a week giving something up and remembering my family and my cancer? And what I mean by that is, maybe there's something in this season that you normally do, or there's something that you like to eat, and just once a week, maybe it's a meal or a cookie or something you'd usually do, and just give it up. Maybe it's an attitude, maybe it's complaining. And the reason we do that is because we need to make room for God to work. And so I'd love it if all my friends and family were in a special way this month, making some room for God to work in our life. Second thing we'd love to ask you to do would be, just once a week, do something generous, something that you might not normally do, something that will bring some excitement, some warmth, some kindness into the world. We live in a world right now where it appears that from the mountaintops, darkness and gloom is being screamed out. And to be honest with you, we reject that message. And so if you and we and everybody we know were to simply, at the ground level, make somebody else's day a little better, light is going to be spread. And we're so thankful for that. And in many ways, guys, things like cancer, it's just a symptom. It's the symptom of a world that is outside of its design. It's not operating the way it's supposed to. But generosity, openness to God, these are the things that make the world right. And so if you wouldn't mind, consider our family and do something generous. Then lastly, of course, most importantly, the third thing, we'd ask you to pray. Once a week, would you say a special prayer for my family, for me, for the surgery? Once we have a date, of course, we'll pass it out, and you can do that too. But listen, we're not going to be crazy here. We will definitely take all the prayers we can. And so especially, I say that to my people who are really dedicated to prayer. Would you please really, in a special way, lift up my family? Enrique, I can't be with you in El Salvador right now. I'm so sorry to tell you this over the computer, but would you tell the friends in Rancho Grande to pray for me and to pray for my family? Because I know that God listens to those children's prayers in a very special way. Tina, you're in Poland, and I know you're receiving this message. And you know so many women who are faithful to God and men who serve God in Poland. Would you please have them pray for my family? And so that's the message. We're very hopeful. We feel very supported. We feel very loved. We have everything we need. But we're asking you in this special season, as we prepare for Christmas, as we prepare for Jesus to come into the world, would you just remember my family in a special way, through giving something up, through making someone's day, and through praying for us. Of course, we'd like to be available to all of you to answer any questions or take any concerns, but understanding that, especially with the holidays, it may take us a little while to get back to you. But we love you. We care for you. We're so thankful that you're in our lives, and we ask for God's blessing upon you.